Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to Asaf Academic. This video, I'm going to be going through a presentation that I've worked on. It's called the Pan-African Family Tree, but this is more so a family tree of Black independent thought, Black ideological thought. So I will be changing the name. I was a bit iffy on the name anyways, but I really wanted to make this sort of chart and breakdown to give people a better understanding of history and how we came to be today, striving for independence, Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism. So I just wanted to connect the dots a little bit. So the purpose, this chart is to show the beginnings and influence of the golden era of Pan-Africanism. This chart is to bring a breath of clarity about the beginnings of the movement and connect the dots that are not widely understood. This is not exactly a traditional family tree, but the inspirations should be thought of as seeds. The idea of forefathers is the foundation being laid for Black independence, self-determination, autonomous governance, and restorative justice. A sense of urgency, the original ideology, implementation, and execution of Pan-Africanism has been lost due to the miseducation system and clouded by New Age counter movements. Over decades, since 1884, we lost our education, our reputation, our traditional forms of government, of family, district, and nation. So this is the beginning, the seeds of ideological thought. So over here, we have Henry Sylvester Williams, and over here we have W.E.B. Du Bois. On this side, we have Booker T. Washington, and then over here we have Marcus Garvey. Over here, we have Earl Little, the father of Malcolm Little, Malcolm X. Over here, we have the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Over here, we have Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Clarence 13X, of the founder of Nations of Gods and Earth, the 5% Nation. And over here, we have Louis Farrakhan. So I did throw a lot of names out there. So going back, we'll go back to the beginning here. Henry Sylvester Williams started the Pan-African Conference in 1900. So he started a Pan-African Conference with the idea and goal to address the issues of the Black race across the world and fix the problems, essentially find solutions. But it wasn't widely popular, so W.E.B. Du Bois was in attendance, but he carried on this idea of the Pan-African Conference, and then he started the Pan-African Congress in 1919. And then he had several Pan-African Congresses. And then the fifth Pan-African Congress, one of the attendees was Dr. Ejiofor Kwame Nkrumah. So this was before he was president and helped gain independence for Ghana. So he was inspired by the work of the Pan-African Conference, but he was also inspired by Marcus Garvey. I mean, I really do not need to go through Marcus Garvey's resume, uniting millions of people worldwide, starting chapters all over the world, really setting on fire the Black nationalist, Black independence movement. But Marcus Garvey was inspired by Booker T. Washington himself. They didn't have completely the same ideas from what I understand, but um, the goal was bettering the Black race as a whole. I just think they had different methods of doing so, but Marcus Garvey was inspired by Booker T. Washington. So over here, Earl Little was a member of the UNIA, so that's why I connected him to Malcolm X. So Malcolm X never knew or Malcolm X, his father died when he was young. So the amount of work, he probably never wasn't aware of the amount of work his father done. I'm not 100% sure if Malcolm X has talked about it, but um, I just think that that seed through his father was laying dormant, in my opinion, because like what are the chances that Malcolm X would start you know, be inspired by Kwame Nkrumah himself, start working with Kwame Nkrumah in his work towards Pan-Africanism. So Dr. Elijah Muhammad, controversial character, I will speak on him more, but in terms of the Nation of Islam and the people that they produced between Malcolm X, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, Clarence 13X. I guess Louis Farrakhan is a little bit more controversial. He did create lots of able-bodied black men, depend determined black men who are serious about independence. So I'll move on. So these are the key dates. So July 23rd, 1900, Henry Sylvester Williams pioneers the first Pan-African Conference. October 3rd, 1914, Booker T. Washington invites Garvey to visit Tuskegee. 1915, Booker T. Washington dies. 1916, Garvey arrives in America. Garvey visits Du Bois in 1916, April 25th. 1919, First Pan-African Congress led by W.E.B. Du Bois, and then the Fifth Pan-African Congress in Manchester in 1945. So the reasoning for Elijah Muhammad, I mean, depending on who you ask, outside the Nation of Islam, there might be differing opinions about him in terms of the situation with Malcolm X and his exit from the Nation of Islam. So as controversial as Elijah Muhammad is, his message of self-determination through his book, Message to the Black Man, with the practical structure of the NOI serves as a modern-day example of nationhood within the belly of the beast, also known as America. So what I mean is how they set up businesses in terms of they have the final call, the newspaper. Um, they sell food, books, like they're known for selling bean pies. It's a big joke, I guess, in the comedic world. Nation of Islam selling bean pies in prison and stuff like that. But that's the way that they sustain themselves by selling food. And they also have the Fruit of Islam, which is their paramilitary wing or security force, whatever you want to call it, and how they protect each other and even protect other people. I've heard celebrities use the Nation of Islam before. So, I mean, they figured out a way to function within the belly of the beast, is what I'm saying. So, as controversial as what had happened, what Malcolm X brought up, I'm just trying to look at it from more of a scientific point instead of um instead of not looking at the whole picture because of the controversy. As long as there is no alleged abuse or perceived consensual consent with young girls or boys. So the structure works as long as children are not being abused. Um, I mean, I would have to go into a little bit about the situation. Um, it's very controversial because the Nation of Islam likes to say that it was a family problem, it was an internal problem, so it's really nobody's business. But still to this day, there's some members who do say things about Malcolm X which I don't think is necessary, whether it's a family problem or not. If it's a family problem, it should have been ended. But I will get into the whole situation with Malcolm X in further slides. So I am jumping the gun a little bit. So the paramilitary with radical self-determination is our strongest weapon during these times. We can see that Elijah influenced several able-bodied Black men, but more importantly, Black leaders. So I have to give credit where credit's due. Like for me, I'm trying to look at more of a scientific viewpoint, look at the entire picture, look at the bad, and say, okay, this is something that shouldn't be repeated again. No matter if the young girls were wives and there was consent, somebody who is in a position of power and is also referred to as God. Um, I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but basically, children should not be abused no matter what. And that's gonna be my final stance. So the shining black prince, Malcolm X, was destined to lead. His father, Earl Little, was a member of the UNIA. He was murdered before he could influence Malcolm Little because Malcolm would then turn to the streets. And then once he went into jail, then that's where he turned to the Nation of Islam. So he eventually ventured back to where he was destined to be anyways, in my opinion. So the story of Detroit Red is basically the menace to society of his day, but he'll be eventually saved by the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. Um, if it wasn't for the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, maybe we could say that Malcolm X would have been saved, but that's why I say we have to give credit where credit's due in the terms of the evolution of Malcolm X, but Elijah Muhammad is not the final evolution of Malcolm X. So the influence of Marcus Garvey should be highlighted, a broken line for Malcolm and a direct line for Nkrumah. The strength of Nkrumah's conviction would bring Malcolm X into the Pan-African bloom in the US. Malcolm X was becoming a Pan-African, documented by his inception of the OAAU, modeled after the OAU. So the OAAU is the the Organization of African American Unity, and the OAU is the Organization of African Unity. So counterintelligence agencies knew he would be a threat globally. So who killed Malcolm X? In my humble opinion and analysis, the NOI is a small fish in the assassination of Malcolm X. There was a larger organization of his enemies. Yes, the NOI benefited from Malcolm's death, but they were just pawns folded into an anti-Black, anti-Pan-African sting operation. Anti-Black, anti-Pan-African sting operation. Nkrumah, Cabral, Lumumba, Martin Luther King. It's no coincidence the Pan-African cartel was dismantled in the 60s and further cracked down on US Black Power movements. I put Malcolm Luther King there because he was talking with Kwame Ture, Kwame Nkrumah. Martin Luther King actually wrote a letter to Kwame Nkrumah about his visit to Ghana and everything. So in the background, Martin Luther King, he probably would have turned to Pan-Africanism eventually as well too. Everybody eventually turns to Pan-Africanism anyways, because that's really the only solution, in my opinion. But it would be silly for me to make NOI chief point man of destruction or assassination, no matter how loud and venomous the emerging new all-star Louis Farrakhan was, who helped perpetuate the atmosphere of hate towards Malcolm within the NOI. So I'm speaking specifically about when Malcolm X went to the media. He went to quote unquote white media to speak on Elijah Muhammad and how he had underage wives. Um, I'm just like thinking here, but it's like in hindsight, it looked it looked like a mistake for Malcolm to go straight to white media. But if you think about it, who else was he supposed to go to? I'm not sure if there was any black media he could have went to, um, because he was already on the media circuit anyways. He was giving interviews, he was the spokesperson for the NOI, so he was already on the media. He already had access to the media. So essentially what he did was he used the access he already had, but it was perceived that he was a traitor because he went to the white man to speak about internal problems that should have been dealt with eternally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, yeah, me personally, I have no problem with what he did because at the end of the day, he tried to bring awareness to what was happening to children. He was trying to bring awareness to the actions of the leader who told his people to act one way, but he was acting in another way. So while NOI was on a campaign to satanize Malcolm, counterintelligence agencies was watching from a distance and spun the gears of motion to take advantage of the volatile situation of Malcolm speaking out against Elijah's marriages with underage girls. So it was the perfect storm. We have people watching as the infighting is going on, and then they come in to wrap together a perfect situation, have the NOI kill Malcolm, and have suspicion lay with the NOI because there's a public feud going on essentially. So the seeds of ideological thinking is important because there's a lot of divisive commentary of many of these individuals, but they are more alike than different. Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois had a public feud. Some would say even nasty feud, and Du Bois is often dismissed because Marcus Garvey was a more beloved figure for the mass organization of his people on his own. The truth of the matter is W.E.B. Du Bois was fundamental to Pan-Africanism through his work, despite what he thought about Garvey. It should also be noted that W.E.B. Du Bois was more aligned with Garvey's radical self-determination near the end of his life, and that was only possible through Kwame Nkrumah. I do believe if Garvey lived long enough through Kwame Nkrumah, they would have settled their differences while they were alive. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I really wanted to lay this out there because really there's no Nkrumah without W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. So Pan-African sphere of influence. So this is more geared towards Pan-Africanism. So I have several people here, but Kwame Nkrumah influenced Gaddafi. Here we have Sekou Toure, his father, also fought against French colonialism as well too. We have Amilcar Cabral. For here we have Kwame Ture, who was central in Pan-Africanism in the United States. There's lots of other figures as well too. I sort of turned this into a game at the end, so I didn't specifically name everybody on the chart. But yeah, I'm not gonna go through everybody, but essentially through Nkrumah brought the seed of Pan-Africanism to Africa. He essentially started Pan-Africanism in Africa through his work and independence of Ghana. He said the independence of Ghana would be nothing if the rest of Africa wasn't free. And this is the type of mindset that we need. We currently don't have it due to neocolonial strangleholds that we're still dealing with till today. And it's really up to the people exactly how Nkrumah did it. He went through the people to become president and then follow up and gain independence. So more key dates. So 1957, Kwame Nkrumah leads Ghana into independence and sparks the torch of Pan-Africanism, carried on from Marcus Garvey. 1958, African Freedom Day, first Pan-African movement in Africa. So he got other African nations together to commemorate, to create this day of commemoration. So African Freedom Day is really the roots of African Liberation Day. As we see here, May 25th, 1963. African Freedom Day, renamed African Liberation Day. 31 countries aim for independence. After Nkrumah's lead, Organization of African Unity is established. And then 1964, Malcolm X and Dr. John Henry Clark established Organized African American Unity, modeled after OAU. So Malcolm X definitely did the work to be called a Pan-African. That's why I say he was in his next evolution as a leader in our community. And that's why they had to stop it. Nkrumah's vision of Ghana was never meant to be liberated alone. The vision was and is a united states of Africa. Pan-Africanism has been attacked in recent times by new Western Black movements or groups, and oftentimes it is stated that Pan-Africanism never worked, which is not true. Pan-Africanism reached many new heights and influences around the world that still has never been re-reached till this day. There's a reason why they had to stop Nkrumah and company while they were coming up. It was essential that they stopped them. It is also stated by New Age Black women empowerment thought leaders on YouTube that there was never been a collective effort by Black men to fix the condition of Black people that was forced upon us. These BWE content creators add up to about hundreds of thousands of followers, and though they may be a minority, this kind of rhetoric wasn't as popular 5, 10, 15 years ago. While they have legitimate grievances about the modern relationship between Black men and women, their analysis on pre-civil rights history is often revisionist in nature because they are applying modern attitudes and behaviors of Black men as being prevalent all throughout history. This is not something I'm going to harp on. This is pretty much really the only issue I have with BWE. I don't think it's, I mean, I do think it is a problem, but in light of what is currently going on in terms of Black femicide, I do want to mention it, but this is not something that I will pursue um, as a priority. I think there's more revisionists from the right wing, from the Republicans, from other right and far right leaning people that was coming out of BWE. Oftentimes, BWE is really just copying what is coming out from the right, anyways, in terms of revisionist history. So the problem really isn't them. Now that I think about it a little bit more deeply. With the introduction of Nkrumah, he was able to carry the seeds of fertile ground in Africa on April 15th, 1958. What Nkrumah started will turn into a sphere of influence, a bloom effect, the flower of manifestation and realization of the wildest dreams of the forefathers of Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Henry Sylvester Williams. They transitioned before they could see monstrous acceleration of their vision, which was Black independence. May 25th, 1963 was the beginning of Pan-African power, Black power, and that is through government, that is through the resources, that is through the people, that is through making our own decisions, that is through building our own infrastructure. I could go on and on and on. So decades of work was put into the ancient history of the African continent. They studied how it developed and influenced Greece and the world, and how wicked, savage foreign forces reduced our greatness to memories. History matters because it must be the front line of defense for mental health. We fell for a reason, and we need to stand up for that same reason. That's why preserving our history from Moors, Hebrew Israelites, Indigenous Americans, and Black feminists is essential because they are revising Black history to fit their own needs and agendas. So I have several scholars here. I will say Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization, #1 book of all time. So everybody I had in this presentation I have here, and then I have clues for a research game. So if you are interested in this PowerPoint presentation and this research game, just let me know. I might even just post a link in the description box. But yeah, just let me know what you think of the overall presentation. Let me know if this is something you think is going to help teach. Let me know if you knew of this information. Let me know how I disseminated this information. But I will be making more presentations like these on top of the other topics I want to deal with and the viral topics. So there's going to be a little bit of mix of everything. So if you're not into the viral I guess hard-hitting topics, there will be these lecture type of topics as well too, as I put more ideas into presentations down, because ultimately that's what I want to do. I want to teach. But thank you for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and peace out to the next video. It's Afro Academic.